Raiders are going to begin their preseason at the Vikings, then going to be playing Dallas in Las Vegas, and then, well, actually, could it be Costa Mesa? No, they would play in Vegas. They would play in Vegas. Who am I kidding?
Yeah.
Even if they do have their training camp in Costa Mesa, it's going to be in Vegas. And then they're going to be playing also in Vegas against the 49ers. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes, Mike. Week 1 at the Chargers. How are you feeling about that game? It's going to be a Sunday afternoon.
Yes, 1:05 p.m. Pacific. I feel like I went first on all the Niners games, so you can go first on the Raider games.
I am going to pick. I purposefully did not text in the group chat my thoughts on this because I wanted to save it for the pod. I'm picking the Chargers week 1. I think the Chargers are going to surprise a lot of people. I don't think that, I don't think their roster maybe is as bad as we thought it was last year with Brandon Staley. I think that they have talent with Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. They got rid of some talented receivers. I can say that for sure. But I think that they're going to rely more on the running game. And, Tyler has been complaining nonstop about Austin Eckler not being a good running back. Gus Edwards is fine. J.K. Dobbins is banged up. I don't know how much he's got left. But I'm going to go ahead and put my prediction. I'm going to put my faith in Harbaugh. I'm not going to waver from that. Remember, the entire off season, I was saying that the Raiders should at least give Harbaugh a call and do their due diligence in that regard. I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to come out wanting, I think he's going to have the Chargers ready to play week 1.
Yeah, he'll probably have them ready for week 1. But will he have them ready for the Raiders is the real question. Is there any way to get rid of the side white bar or no?
I don't think so.
Is there a way to save the photo and just put the photo up?
Hold on. Yeah, I guess that might be an option.
That'd be sweet because the white bar is killing me, and Antonio Pierce has a hilarious face over there.
Okay, so
he looks like he's like a little 6-year-old smiling for a very important photo that they don't want to be taking. There we go. That's way better. All right, cool.
This looks a lot cleaner too. You're right.
Yeah, it looks so much better. Yeah, I'm admittedly having a hard time with this game because on one hand, I think, okay, the Raiders. We're good.
Okay.
The Chargers have a better quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a total aneurysm right there. You saw it. The Chargers have the better quarterback. I think the Raiders have the better team. Okay? I think that the Chargers and Raiders split this year, and I don't know which one to place which way, because it's the first game and it's the last game. Maybe that last game is more important in the overall scheme of things. But, momentarily in the moment, week 1 might feel a little bit more important to the Chargers, right? Because it's Harbaugh's first game. It's in their house. We got to get them a win in the home opener. We got to win this game at home. And also, they're coming off of a 63-21 loss as their most previous game against the Raiders. The Chargers want revenge, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm going to take my time with this one. I'm sorry.
No worries. This is the one I was thinking about all day.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this one.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason on like TikTok, my For You page, lots of Raiders stuff. Lots of funny cat videos, funny dog videos, some cool videos, mostly funny videos. And then randomly I'll get Charger fan videos. And it's like, wow, they have such a small fan base that they have to send their videos to me, you know. But I notice Charger fans on Twitter. I notice their TikToks on TikTok. For some reason, they show up for me. And it's very clear that Charger fans really want this game. Really want this game. And it's mostly because it's week 1. But I can tell you right now, they're thinking about this game way more than whenever the fuck they're playing the Chiefs, whenever the fuck they're playing the Broncos, and whenever they're playing the Ravens for the Harbaugh game, which is a thing this year. They are thinking about this game. Again, it's mostly because it's week 1, but also mostly because it's the Raiders. The Broncos, they have Raider week. Everybody wants to beat the Raiders. My brain tells me the Chargers will win this game. And again, the Raiders and Chargers will split, and the Raiders will win the final game. But my ego and my desire, when I see the opposition, the enemy, preying on our downfall, saying things like, oh man, I saw a tweet that was like, can't wait. We're not going to let them score. This is a Chargers fan. They're not going to score. Like, we have to get them back, basically, Like, I don't know what it is with Charger fans. No offense to our buddy Tyler, but they are delusional. They are good at that. They are good at that. And I'm like, I have my thing here where I went through the schedule yesterday when the schedule dropped. I did 2 things. I looked for games that I want to go to, and then I put a red X for loss and a green check mark for win. And for week 1, I have a red X for loss, but I'm switching it to a win because fuck Charger fans.
So that's very bold. What I will say is, I think Justin Herbert is the X factor for me picking, the Chargers. If Justin Herbert was on the Raiders would blow the Chargers out of the water. Like
they would be a Super Bowl contender.
Yep. Overnight they would. I think that highly of Justin Herbert. And the quarterbacks, what do all the great teams kind of have in common? They all have, really good quarterbacks. Most of them do. Most great teams do. Jim Harbaugh is an elite head coach. He's a proven winner at the NFL level, at the college level. He turns around every franchise he goes to instantly. I don't see why I would think any differently when it comes to the Chargers. So you've got the Raiders winning. I've got the Chargers. I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about my prediction. I think you're right. The Raiders, top to bottom, have the better roster. I don't think it's probably have the better roster. The Raiders do have the better roster. It's just, I've seen it time and time again. The two main pieces, the coach, the quarterback. Chargers check those boxes. They do still have talent. They have a pass rush. I don't think Minshew is a serious contending quarterback. Give me the Chargers.
I would like to further explain for the Raiders beating the Chargers because, again, how do I say? Just because of tendencies, and the fact that, most teams that where a new head coach comes in, they're usually pretty crappy. It's like the Panthers, or maybe the Titans, right? Where it's like, yeah, they're not good. Whereas the Chargers, it's this weird thing where it's like, on paper, they kind of should be good, but their coach was holding them back so bad that, they were what they were. But to me, I just think by the time week 1 rolls around, the Raiders should get a number 2 corner. They should sign somebody. I don't care if it's Adoree Jackson, Xavier Howard, Stephon Gilmore, or I'm forgetting his name, but the guy from the Texans. Sign somebody. He was on the Texans last year. Can you check my private chat for you?
Yeah, I replied.
Okay, cool. I'm forgetting his name, but it doesn't matter.
You said a corner from the Texans?
Yeah. He's a free agent right now. He's a veteran. He was like number 32 or 31 or something like that. Anyways, just sign somebody at corner that is a viable number 2 option opposite Jack Jones. If the Raiders do that, in my opinion, the Raiders have every mismatch on the Chargers except for quarterback. They have a rookie left tackle, actually right tackle. Okay? We have one of the top 3 edge rushers in the league going up against a rookie. Yes, he's going to be good. I think so. I think he's going to be great, Joe Alt. I don't think in start number 1 he's going to dominate Max Crosby. Like, just stop it right now. I think we have Christian Wilkins on the interior, and that's something to be easily forgotten, because we haven't seen it yet. I think we have a strong defense, and I think when you look at their run game, it's like, yes, they should have a great run scheme. That doesn't mean that they're going to run good, because the guys that they have are guys that were backups they have the backup and the former starter who is on his second Achilles tear, right?
Dobbins, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it's like they're good and they work well in that run scheme. It might work really well for them. It might also blow up in their face where they have no run game and they have to depend on Herbert, which is not a bad thing, but he's throwing to rookies and Quentin Johnson, who sucks. So to me, it's like whether we have the second corner or not, we're probably going to have a corner versus wide receiver mismatch where our corner's going to be better than their receivers. Ladd McConkey's solid, but he's a rookie. We got veterans out here. So, and their defense doesn't exactly scare me. Like Asante Samuel, good corner. Not for Devontae Adams. Derwin James, great safety. Trey Tucker made him look like an idiot when we beat them 63-21. So I think it really just depends on the quarterback play, in my opinion. And I just think I'm fired up because I've already seen the talk, and we are months away from this game. Raider fans aren't sitting here going, and I know I am because I saw the talk, but Raider fans on Twitter aren't like, man, we're going to smoke the Chargers again. It was the Charger fans that started instigating. Oh, man, we got to get them. We're getting them. They're not scoring on us. Good luck with that, guys. We are going to spoil your head coach's first game.
If the Raiders are to win this game, this is how it's going to happen, or this is what's going to need to happen. Christian Wilkins and the rest of the Raiders' defensive line is going to have to stop that run game for the Chargers, which is entirely possible. The secondary, like you said, is probably going to outmatch the Charger receivers unless a guy like DJ Chark, Ladd McConkey, and Brendan Rice, if one of those 3 can make an impact, like, people are comparing Ladd McConkey to Cooper Kupp. He's not Cooper Kupp. He's not. He's white. That's why people say it.
If he will be like Cooper Kupp, which I don't think he will be exactly, he's probably a shorter, more of a route running. Like, to me, he's a rich man's Hunter Renfrow. That's the way I would look at it.
I see him more as a Hunter Renfrow than a Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, but if
Cooper
he were
Kupp's
to become
kind of like a unicorn.
Yeah, if he were to be like have an effect like Cooper Kupp, it's not going to be this year. Maybe next year, but not this year.
But yeah, I think that if the Raiders are going to win, it's going to be because of that defensive line against the Chargers, front. Because if they can make Herbert uncomfortable if they can, clog up the rushing lanes. Like I think Christian Wilkins is a huge signing for a matchup like this. But I think I just have too much faith in Harbaugh and Herbert, and I think that they'll find a way to win.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying the Raiders cannot win. Like I'm not definitively saying it can't happen. This is the worst matchup for the Raiders. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. And out of respect to the Chargers roster and coach or coaching staff, I am going to stick to my split decision for the Chargers and give the Raiders the loss in the final week of the season. So,
okay.
But the Charger fans fired me up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Charger fans fired me up, and I want nothing more than a week 1 win to start the season because of Charger fans, but also because looking at the schedule, a week 1 win would be huge. And it's also just a big mental boost of like, all right, good. We're off to a good start. That's always a good feeling. So I prefer not to start 0-2 because moving on to the next game, I'll just give it to you right now. I have the Raiders losing to the Ravens.
Fair enough. I also have them losing to the Ravens. I've got the Raiders starting off 0-2. I think that the Ravens are tough. They're a very tough football team. Lamar is an X factor. They're going to have Derrick Henry. I think the Raiders are going to have their hands full.
Indeed.
I feel like the Ravens are that one offense where they can make it like really tough even for great defenses. Like especially with adding Derrick Henry. Like before you kind of just I know that the Ravens did want to run the ball, but it's like they didn't have the greatest rushers. They just had Justice Hill. And obviously, Gus Edwards is the guy now in the Chargers who I'm anticipating is going to be used a lot in the game against the Raiders. Because I know the Chargers are just going to want to run the ball. And then like set up efficient passes for Justin Herbert. Like that's like the Greg Roman way. But I think Derrick Henry is a different animal. And yeah, it's just going to be not a nightmare for the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to play a very competitive game, but I think the Ravens will pull it out. I just think that the AFC North is super tough.
Yeah. And just again, I know this is probably already obvious, but if the Raiders are to lose to the Chargers week 1, I expect them to beat them week 18. But I'm just hoping for week 1 because there'd be nothing more fun than just to keep smothering it in their faces, But yeah, the Ravens game, the funny thing about the Ravens is although I see a loss here, the Raiders with, in my opinion, worse rosters, but perhaps a better quarterback in Derek Carr, have kind of had the Ravens number over the past like 3 matchups dating back to like 2016. Maybe it's been more matchups. Maybe they've lost one and I'm just forgetting it. But I remember there was a Monday night opener that went to overtime. That was a crazy game in like 2022, maybe 2021. And again, 2016 was another one I'm thinking of. Just a lot of crazy like game winner games. There was one with Michael Crabtree where he caught like a game winner, and then Reggie Nelson got the game sealing interception. Maybe it was a pass deflection, but a lot of crazy games against the Baltimore Ravens. And hopefully it's another crazy game, and hopefully we can pull out the win. But it's going to be at Baltimore, and I think this is going to be a little different as far as the run offense goes. Granted, they have a new offensive coordinator, but they have Derrick Henry. So it's going to be very interesting with them.
I think if the Raiders beat the Ravens, no matter what happens in week 1, I think it's safe to say it's probably going to be a good year for the Raiders.
Yeah, I would hope. But, I mean, my thing with the Raiders this year is it's their quarterback. They can win lots of games, but not having that star quarterback might be the reason why they don't win enough games to still make the playoffs because, as I kind of hinted in the Niners part of this pod, I'll just give my opinion now. Well, I should give it at the end, but I'll give it now. I think the Raiders might need to win 11 games to make the fucking playoffs in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it might be that difficult because, at least barring injuries, because last year the Colts lost Anthony Richardson. The Browns lost Deshaun Watson, but that may have been actually better for them. The Bengals with Joe Burrow, the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Those are some star quarterbacks, specifically the last two that I just named, where now they're going to be healthy. I got a photo. Let me look at it. Last year's playoffs to start, okay? Ravens had the 1 seed. The Chiefs, I believe, were the 3 seed. Honestly, I don't give a shit about the seeding, sorry. I think the Chiefs were the 3 and the Bills were the 2 somehow. But anyways, playoff teams. Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, Texans, Browns, Dolphins, Steelers. Okay? Tack on Bengals, Chargers, Colts. Who else could be in there? Because I feel like there's more. I think the entire AFC North is a playoff gauntlet. I think the Steelers, which is the team that made it last year, who knows with them? That's Mike Tomlin. And they got a quarterback upgrade, I would say. Russell Wilson is not really the greatest quarterback in the world, but it's better than what they had last year, right? I would the Jaguars, although I don't take them too seriously, but you could argue they have upgraded this year. And the Jets. I'm literally leaving out, including the Raiders, 4 teams in the entire AFC, including the Raiders. So add the Raiders to that potential playoff team list. 3 teams out of 16 that I see is like they're not making the playoffs. The Broncos, Patriots, Titans. That is tough. Good luck, especially if those teams' quarterbacks remain healthy. Good luck. So, I don't know. It's at the point now where, I said in, I think, the last podcast, I think this is the best team I've seen from the Raiders on paper. Besides quarterback. And yet, the entire AFC is loaded. We have to deal with the Chiefs twice a year. Who knows what Harbaugh and the Chargers are going to be, right? It just feels like in a normal, even setting of okay, there's 8 good teams in the AFC, 8 good teams in the NFC, and then a couple wildcard teams. The Raiders could totally make the playoffs with Minshew and O'Connell. Totally. But in this loaded AFC where it's I don't know, 12 great teams, solid to great teams in the AFC, and then 3 great teams and 5 wildcard teams in the NFC. It's in the AFC, you need that star quarterback. And the Raiders just don't have that right now. And the only thing I can hope for, I feel like Minshew has played enough football to be able to comfortably say he's not going to randomly become this Geno Smith, bona fide Pro Bowl quarterback who puts the team on his back and goes to the playoffs. I don't foresee that for O'Connell either, but at least with O'Connell, I see the ability for him to progress into something better than expected. Whereas Minshew, it's he might be the safer starter in some cases, but he's not going to propel the team, So I just, until they get that quarterback that propels the team, making a playoff run is just difficult for me. But that's my tirade. That's my my rant. So we can continue.
Okay, so week 3 versus the Panthers. It's a home game. I've got the Raiders. I don't think the Panthers are that good.
Yeah, I also have the Raiders. Same reason.
I think the Raiders will smoke them, and it'll bring the morale back up. Because that's the thing is even last year there were points where the morale kind of got low for the Raiders, and then it shot back up with a win. And it hasn't even just been last year. It's been multiple seasons where it's like, oh, we got through the hard part of the schedule. Now things are looking up. I see that as like, all right, we're on the board now.
Yeah, I'm glad this week 3 game isn't like a Chiefs game. That would just be OP, of
Mhm.
like if they lost week 1 and then they have Ravens, Chiefs, Browns, it'd be like, well, good luck getting the team invested before week 8,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be invested no matter what, but still, it's like I'm really rooting for Antonio Pierce here, and I feel like again with the AFC the way that it is, the cards are kind of stacked against him, and the way that his quarterback room looks, they need to get a good quarterback in there ASAP.
Mhm.
But this week 3 game is huge. It's the home opener. It should be a win. Again, home opener. That should it should be a good time. And then they can go into week 4 hopefully feeling a little bit more optimistic. Hopefully at 2-1, if not 3-0.
Mhm. So now we've got the Browns. What do you think, Mike? Or I'm supposed to give it first.
This is true.
I think the Browns defense is legit, and that's going to be a problem for an offense that doesn't have a quarterback that can transcend, great defenses like I think that the Browns are going to be, or at least from what they showed last year. I'm going with the Browns. Although I will say I'm not as confident in this pick because I don't know what to expect from Deshaun Watson. But even if Watson isn't fully 100% with his shoulder, I mean, they picked up Joe Flacco off the street last year, and Flacco looked really good in this offense. So,
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, I'm very interested to see what becomes of Nick Chubb. I wonder if he even plays the first 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. I have no idea.
there's been
Obviously
no
they have
update on
Jerome.
him.
Yeah, they have Jerome Ford. I don't know if they signed any other major running back in free agency. I want to say they got Deontay Foreman, but that's more of like a depth guy. But the run game with Nick Chubb was like their heartbeat. And Deshaun Watson, it looked like he was starting to play pretty good in that Ravens game, and then he got hurt. So I again, like you said, I don't really know what to think of Deshaun Watson anymore.
Unpopular opinion. I think
Uh,
Deshaun Watson was playing better than people were giving him credit for last year, up until when he got injured. He wasn't playing at the level that he was playing at when he was on the Texans. And I watched Deshaun Watson pretty closely last year because I was interested in him in fantasy football, and I was like all in on last season. That's
yeah,
why I've got my buddy back here. But so I thought that like he played better. His receivers didn't do him any favors, and he was maybe adjusting a little bit to the wind that you sort of get in the Browns stadium. But I don't know what to expect from Deshaun Watson coming into this year because it's always a big deal. Like surgery on your throwing shoulder, I could imagine, is not what you want to be hearing out of your quarterback. And is he going to be the same? Anthony Richardson looks good. I haven't seen or heard much from Deshaun Watson.
yeah, and also, who did the Browns end up with as their backup quarterback?
It was Dorian Thompson Robinson and then PJ Walker. PJ Walker played a little bit.
Well, they had Joe Flacco, but I feel like they signed somebody.
No. Okay, I'm talking about last year. They did like
Oh
a
no,
platoon of DTR and PJ Walker, and then like I feel like they got Joe Flacco off the street and he played very
yeah,
well. But let me
yeah.
see Browns depth chart.
While you look for that, I think what you said about the Raiders
Jameis Winston
quarterback.
and Tyler
Okay.
Huntley.
Oh,
So they
and
got
Tyler.
options
Okay.
behind behind
Huntley's a
Watson.
nice. Huntley is interesting for them. Whereas Jameis Winston is like, fuck it, we ball. I love Jameis Winston. Dude.
Somebody's open down there.
Oh man, yeah. But I honestly, if there's one backup quarterback that I hope becomes a Raider someday, and also that I hope becomes a broadcaster someday, it's Jameis Winston. Not because he plays good, but just because the dude is hilarious for like locker room vibes.
I'll never forget
This
the clip of him dancing with his crutches.
dude,
That
that's
was
one of the
classic.
that's one of the greatest videos ever because it cuts. It's like Mark Ingram and somebody else like smoking a stogie or doing whatever they're doing, like, oh yeah, like, you know, on a selfie mode, and then it just like the guy that has the camera like looks over here and then he like flips the camera and it's just Jameis Winston like with one crutch up in the air, the other one's holding him up. Oh my god, dude. And then eating a
Classic.
W. Eating a W is one of the funniest things that's ever happened in American sports.
Can
In
you
a
demonstrate
serious
what that
American
looked
sports.
like?
I'm not doing
No,
it, but it looks something like this. And then you put it all in your mouth and you're eating a W, man. But he was, I don't know if he was serious or if he was just like, I don't care, you know? Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
This is a W. We're gonna eat it. We're gonna eat the W. Like, what? What? Oh my god, dude.
He's the type of player that like fans won't forget. Like, you know, he is such a great, you know, he's got such a great like football personality.
You know what? I never noticed his personality on the Buccaneers. It all started with the crab legs. It all started with the crab legs, and then it was like he's no longer a starter. He got cut or whatever happened with the Buccaneers. And that was when it was almost like he was like, man, fuck it. And just like let it all out. And he's, oh man, hilarious. I wish he could play good enough to become a starter again, but it's all right. Anyway, okay. So as far as the Browns game, sorry, I'm totally going all over the place here, but
I've got the Browns.
I've got this penciled in as a loss. Granted, I think this is going to be an old school football game. Just power blocking, just tough physical football. Built like this game will be won in the trenches, 100%. And I could honestly see it going either way. This will be the second straight game in Las Vegas. Depending on the quarterback play, I could absolutely see the Raiders winning this game, but I'm going to pencil it for the Browns, mostly because of their defense. Yeah, but if the Raiders score points, man, I could see the Raiders winning this game pretty handily.
Yeah.
So, but
so
give them the L. Give them the L.
Then we go to Denver, October 6th, the Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
Against the Broncos. I've got the Raiders winning. I've got them winning that game.
I don't even.
I'm so out on the Broncos.
Yep. I don't even have to explain it, dude.
Okay. Versus the Steelers at home.
Which, by the way, if the Raiders lose to the Broncos, Houston, we have a problem. But yeah. So okay, back home. What's up, Thrash?
Says, what's up, guys? What's up, Thrash? Welcome back. And he says, you know, he's acknowledging the smack talk that Anthony was giving the Niners earlier.
So Raiders versus Steelers at home. Oh, you can go first.
I've got the Raiders winning this one. Actually, even though they have an improvement at quarterback, I think that the Steelers just they pull off winning seasons, but they just lose games like, you know, like it's nobody's business. Like they somehow lose like embarrassing games. And I'm not saying it would be embarrassing to lose to the Raiders, but like they have lost some like games that they shouldn't lose, and then they just like, all right, plop, winning season by the end.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers are better than they were with Rudolph and better than they were with Kenny Pickett. Yeah. But I like the Raiders in this game.
Yeah. And they got rid of the wide receiver, Deontay
Johnson. Jeez.
And I think they're going to have a rookie in Roman Wilson. I feel the same way about him as Ladd McConkey. Like, he'll be good, but it's going to take a couple weeks, months, if not a year. So, and George Pickens isn't like your quintessential, like, throw him the ball any given play. Like, he's an explosive ass receiver, but sometimes he doesn't quite always show up on the stat board. So, but we'll see now with him being kind of the number one. But
Mm.
I also have the Raiders winning this one. The past two matchups against the Steelers took home with the W. I think it's time to kind of even the playing field and get a win on them.
Okay, so I currently have the Raiders at 3-3, and you currently have them at 4-2. Okay.
Yep.
At Rams, and this is another Sunday afternoon game.
Yep.
I'm supposed to give my take first. I think it's going to be a close game, dude. I really think it's going to be close.
It's going to be fun.
But it's going to be a fun football game for sure. Man, it's kind of a toss-up, but I'm going to go with the Rams because I think Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams, for that matter. It's a pretty good offense. I know in the Niners section I had questions about their defense. And, it might sound a little fishy that I'm like hyping up the Rams. I do think this game is going to be close. And I even think the games against the Niners are going to be close. But I have to pick one way or the other. I could see the Raiders winning this game, but I'm choosing the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Raiders simply off of the opinion that I think the Raiders have the stronger offensive and defensive lines in this matchup. And I can see Puka and Cooper Kupp and specifically Stafford having a big game. Kind of more like a Stafford sort of just managed the hell out of this game, sort of masterclass, because something I noticed last year with the Raiders defense was they didn't really give up the deep passes overhead, and like they never really let the receivers get past the safeties, which isn't like a huge thing now with Cooper Kupp. And I don't think Puka Nacua had many big, long touchdowns either. But I can see this being like a just Stafford, 31 of 38, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, just a masterclass,
Hell no, I don't see Stafford doing that. Stafford always rubs me as the quarterback who's has those questionable throws in the middle of a game, but lights it up for the whole rest of it. Like he will just heave it up and then it'll be intercepted. And it's like, man, what the hell was that? And then the whole rest of the game, he's doing all these passes that are awesome. They're on target. They're accurate. I don't see Stafford having no interceptions against the Raiders. Obviously we're in May and I'm predicting whether or not there's going to be an interception. That's a little too specific, I think, to get into, but I see Thrash in the comments saying intercepted in the end zone. I think Stafford is good enough to put on a good game against the Raiders. Managing it, he's not the game manager type. He's more of the gunslinger type, in my opinion.
Yeah. I guess my point is just, I don't think he's going to if his intention is to sling it on the Raiders, that might work out worse for him than managing it, because I think the pass rush is going to get there. And I think, the weakness on the Raiders is right now is their corner. It's their second corner. So you can utilize that to your advantage by, if the pass rush is coming, get the ball out within 2 seconds,
I think where the Rams have the advantage, is that they have, Puka Nacua now, who, is able to, take a screen, get a lot of yards after the catch. They have Kyron Williams now, who also, they're more capable in the short passing game than they were before, where I felt like it was just like, all right, Cooper Kupp, get open. I feel like they can do a lot more stuff now than they could in the past with like Cam Akers. And, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I just think at the end of the day, like I said, I think this game for the Raiders can be won in the trenches. I think I don't really know how I feel about the Rams defense, but I would side with you that their defense is weaker than their offense for sure. And I think at the end of the day, with every single one of these predictions, especially this one, but really all of them, it really comes down to the Raiders quarterback play. Who's going to even start? But also, will he have a good game or will he have a bad game? If the quarterback has a bad game and I'm predicting them to win, forget about it. We're probably going to lose. But if the quarterback goes out there and game manages and scores points, finishes drives with touchdowns, the Raiders can win any game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give them the win in this one.
Definitely. Oh, okay. So you've got, yeah. All right. You got the Raiders. Thrash asks, did they replace Donald? It's
Braden
yet to be.
Fisk.
Braden Fisk is a good player to put in Donald's spot. He won't have the same impact as Aaron Donald, but still, I'm projecting Fisk to be a good player. I wanted him on the 49ers, but he didn't fall.
Yeah. He'll be good. I just don't know if he'll be great.
Thrash thinks that Bowers is going to light up the Rams.
I keep forgetting about Bowers, dude. God damn. Okay, I was thinking about him the other day, though. I think the way to look at Bowers, like in this passing offense, okay, we have Devontae Adams, we have Jacoby Myers, we have Trey Tucker returning. Obviously, he and Bowers are kind of probably more of this in the slot. So when it's not Tucker, it's Bowers. When it's not Bowers, it's Tucker, or it's Michael Mayer or whatever. But Michael Mayer is more of the traditional tight end. To me, Brock Bowers is not only the replacement, he's the upgrade of Hunter Renfrow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Bowers is to me. So I just feel like this passing offense, if the quarterback, whoever the starter is, can just play good, can just manage games and not not make stupid decisions. Again, the Raiders can win any game. Not saying they will win every game, obviously. They might not even have a winning record at the end of the season. But I think with the right quarterback of the two guys that we have, making the right decisions, they can win any game. And I just think against this Rams team, they can win this game. So I'm going to give it to them.
Mm-hmm. Thrash says he feels that Christian Wilkins, is going to cause havoc all year, resulting in interceptions and sacks from both Crosby and him with a sprinkle of Kuntz.
And then also even another sprinkle of Tyree Wilson and another sprinkle of Adam Butler, Adam Butler, not so much. Maybe Tyree Wilson, not so much. But those three, Crosby, Kuntz, and Wilkins, they're going to make a difference, man. And again, I just think the one question mark for me in the trenches for the Raiders is right tackle, but they have a big group of guys that are going to battle for that position, and the best guy is going to win. So to me, it's like, so long as Jackson Powers-Johnson isn't making really horrible rookie mistakes, I feel good about the offensive line. I guess the real question for the Raiders for me, other than the second corner, is how will the offensive line help the run game? How will the pass game help the run game? To me, the weakness on the Raiders offense might be the run game, but if their pass offense can work well, if the run blocking can execute well, the run game can be fine. But yeah.
Yeah, Thrash says, dude, Bowers is kind of yoked. Yeah, he almost looks like me. No, I'm just playing.
That was great. Yeah, he almost looks like me.
Yeah. Oh, man. Thrash has a question. I hate to go back, but did you mention Crosby destroying... Mike did mention the matchup between Crosby and Joe Alt in week 1. One thing I will say is that I think Joe Alt is a behemoth. I saw him against, there was this picture I sent in the group chat. He is massive. He's 6'8". I don't know how much he weighs, but he just looks so much bigger than, I guess, like the corner that tried to go in or the defensive back that tried to go in and I guess get to the quarterback on the play that they were working on in practice. But he is he's a giant, and I will say, I think that he will be more prepared than you think for week one. He's not going to win every rep against Crosby because nobody does. Even the best pass rushers in the NFL don't get the best of Max Crosby. But all offseason, Joe Alt is going to be practicing against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And they are two of like the top technically skilled pass rushers. So it's not going to be like he's going up against like,
Scrub.
just like a scrub, edge rusher.
Yeah, I think my thing with Joe Alt, he's going to, over the course of from now, the next year to year and a half, he's going to grow into a true NFL offensive tackle. Possibly one of like three. Like he'll be a top 5 tackle as soon as next year, but it's not going to be this year. I think where he can help himself a lot is his elusiveness. He's agile for a tackle. His athletic ability is impressive. And again, his frame is nuts, right? Granted, of course, he's going to look like a behemoth against a 5'11" corner who barely weighs 200 pounds. At the end of the day, someday Joe Alt will be big like me. But,
This is the image that I was talking about. This guy is like 6'2" right here. This is Joe Alt.
I don't know if that guy's 6'2". His knees have to be really bent. I'm curious. It looks like he might be 41, 47. I'm curious who that is because that dude looks tiny.
Chargers players sorted by number. So let's see here. Chargers player roster. Was it? Okay, it's not 41. Let's go by number. Okay, in the 40s. Let's see here. The last name looks like it starts with what? Is that a G?
I'd say that's a G or a B.
Okay. Let's see. It could. Oh, Akeem Dent. I think it's Akeem Dent, the safety, number 46. He's 6'1".
Okay, what other 40s do they have?
Look, you see?
Okay.
They've got Bud Dupree, number 48. He's 6'4", so he's even taller.
41's tight end, 42. I see. Yeah, so it's either 45. Yeah, I guess it's probably Dent. Interesting.
Dude, if he's 6'1", all right, one thing I will say, his pad level shouldn't be that high. But this dude is going to be a monster. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think that's why they took him with a top 5 pick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Joe Alt apparently was already talking smack to Max Crosby. I haven't heard about it. Maybe you have.
I might have seen something on Twitter or TikTok where I think people were making like funny mock things, like as if Joe Alt said that he was going to, do whatever to Max Crosby, but I don't think that was real. If that was, that's bold. But because Crosby's interesting in the sense that I don't think things phase him in the wrong way, but when he comes across things, he remembers. You and I were talking about something recently where he mentioned on his podcast, like 2 seasons ago now, he played against a team, which I believe was confirmed to be the Niners, where he felt that a certain offensive tackle was playing dirty. And basically, it's assumed that it's Mike McGlinchey because he says, I won't say what team he plays for, but when I saw him on the upcoming schedule, week 1, which was the fucking Broncos, I think he said. I think he said week 1, so it's obvious. It's Mike McGlinchey. Basically, he felt like McGlinchey was playing dirty, probably doing like chop blocks and stuff, and he remembered it, and he acted on it. So if Crosby hears things about a rookie talking about him, God be with Joe Alt. God be with him. Granted, I don't think Joe Alt is saying a single thing about a single player that isn't on his team. So Joe Alt seems like he's got like a really good head on his shoulders. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. Thrash, if you want to go back to earlier when I was talking about the Chargers matchup, it got pretty heated, for lack of a better term, in the sense of me getting fired up because as far as people talking smack, I have heard Charger fans talking smack about this game because they want it really bad. And that makes me want this game really bad because their suffering is fun, right? So,
yeah, Thrash thinks that Joe Alt is going to be great, but he should watch himself when he smack talks Crosby, because Crosby will mentally prepare for that.
Yeah. Again, Crosby, the in his prime veteran, top 3 defensive end in the league, going up against a rookie is not a good sign for a rookie.
Yeah. And I think Thrash is alluding to the podcast where Crosby was talking, it's assumed, about Mike McGlinchey. So
yeah.
Let's get back to the predictions versus the Chiefs at home.
At home, and the Raiders defend their home against the Chiefs. Are you ready, Josh?
I've got the Raiders.
I've got the Raiders losing the next 2 games. Actually, the next 3 games. I'm spoiling it, but I have the Raiders currently going into the Chiefs game. I have the Raiders at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2. I've got them losing the next 3. They're going to be 5 and 5 going into November 24th, week 12.
I can already see it. So the Chiefs play the Niners week 7 and then play the Raiders week 8. And then I predicted the Chiefs would win against the Niners. And then all of a sudden they have to play against the Raiders. And then they play like shit.
I hope so.
Yeah. And then I have to hear, oh, at least we can beat the Chiefs.
Oh, man. You're going to have to hear it in both ways.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No. I don't know. I want the Raiders so badly to defend their home against the Chiefs because I don't know if the Chiefs have lost to the Raiders in Vegas yet. I genuinely don't think they have. As long as the Chiefs have played at Allegiant Stadium, I don't think the Chiefs have lost to them in Allegiant. But they have lost at least once, if not multiple times, in Arrowhead. So
I think they'll split, and I think the Raiders. I like their chances more at home than I like it on the road.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the only reason why I might slightly disagree is because the away game is a primetime game, and I can see the Raiders showing up for that. But I'd honestly rather them defend their home and win week 8. But I'm gonna keep my prediction as a loss.
Okay. So currently I have the Raiders at 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. I got them at 4 and 4 against going up against the Bengals. You've got the Raiders at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got them at 5 and 3. Okay. So at the Bengals, I've got the Bengals winning. Although I am very concerned about Joe Burrow's wrist because I don't know why we're still talking about it, and where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Apparently it's not a very good. It's a very rare injury for a quarterback to get.
Yeah. Training camp is going to be very telling for him. Yeah, because from what I understand, this is more like the type of injury where a defensive lineman or somebody would hurt when they fall down. And it's like, oh, maybe you need surgery, but it's no big deal because, it doesn't matter with like the flick of your wrist. But for quarterbacks, it does. And it's his throwing wrist. Yeah. From what I want to say, he's like still getting on and off like inflammation or something, which is no bueno.
Yeah.
So
I feel like the wrist is tough, man, because it's like you can get just like these minor little injuries that just kind of feel funky. Like,
Dude,
it's like it feels like it'll take forever to heal, and
yeah.
then it's like you don't know what exactly to do in order to heal it. It's like one false motion or one bad motion after your wrist feels fine for weeks, and then it's like, oh my god, it's back.
Yeah. I woke up one day to a really sore wrist because I was probably sleeping something like this, or
Mhm.
like I had it tucked like that probably. And then like
Yeah, being
at
secure with
first
the
it was
football.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. I was securing
Had
the
it
football
tucked
while I
like this.
slept. Yeah. But I probably slept like this or something, and like my hand was probably like really dug in. Maybe I laid on it. I don't know. But I woke up and it was like, oh, whatever. And then like I went to work, it was fine. And then like by midday, it was like, whoa. By like the next day, I could feel the tendons. I think it's tendons in here that like connect to each finger. Like if you went like this, you could feel them moving, you know?
Mhm.
Whenever I would go like this, it was like a squeaking door. It was like like I could feel it. Like it was drying. And that's stupid or weird, but that's what it felt like. It was like if I moved my wrist, I would feel it in there creaking like a squeaky door. And I was like, oh, that like it felt weird. It hurt to do certain movements, and it was like what essentially it was like. I'm gonna say this. Whatever I say, it's gonna sound stupid, but basically, like it should be lubricated naturally, and it was like they were running dry. Pause. But you know what I mean. Like that's what it felt like. It'd be like I don't know, who gives a shit. But it just like that's an example of like a wrist thing of just like, and for me it was like after a week I was still feeling, I was like, dude, what the hell? So this is a major wrist injury, and obviously it's still affecting him. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I've had this thing where like when doing like lat pulls at the gym, like the seated cable lat pulls, I just get this weird feeling, and I noticed it was like after I started doing hammer curls, like I started doing more hammer curls and maybe up in the weight a little bit, but I
mhm,
get like this like little tingling sensation when I'm doing the lat pulls or the cable rows, whatever you want to call it, and it's just like one of those things where I go less weight on it now, but like higher reps because I don't want to like aggravate it. And then Pia's got this thing going on with her wrist too, where she like feels fine, and then like just out of nowhere, like we've taken a break from doing weights like on our like kind of upper extremities to like give it time to heal, because I feel like it's like if we give it enough time, maybe it'll be fine, but it just like keeps coming back. Like um
mm,
and I don't even think our technique is that wrong, but I'm sure there's going to be somebody that says, "Oh, it is wrong if you are, if you are getting injured." So,
right.
uh, you know, I've been working out for so long, haven't had an issue, and then all of a sudden, have an issue. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where I guess I'm just getting old.
Yeah, you never know.
Your body just
Um,
starts to break down.
yeah, yeah. I've got the Bengals game as a loss, although this game and the Dolphins game, and you could argue the Chiefs game, like anything can happen. Just because I say the Raiders are losing the next 3 games doesn't mean that they definitely will. Just because I say they're going to beat the Rams doesn't mean that they definitely will. But at the end of the day, I think they can win any of these games. But if you're saying out of 100 times will they win these games, it might be less than 50 for most of them. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from, I guess, for predictions right now. I mean, week 1 was more of an emotional prediction, but I have my opinion on the Chargers matchup overall, where they're going to split. And I do think the Raiders should split with the Chiefs, but it's the Chiefs, so I could see them beating us in both matchups. So we'll see what I think. But as far
I
as the
think the
Bengals game, what?
I think the Raiders have beat the Chiefs with worse rosters
Oh,
and the Chiefs having better rosters. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you honestly might have convinced me on changing a couple of my picks as we continue on. But
mhm. I've got the Bengals. It sounds like you've got the Bengals. Obviously,
I've
we'll
got the
stay tuned and,
Bengals.
and do an update of that, like as we go along with the season.
Yeah, I've got the Bengals, but I could totally see this one flipping in favor of the Raiders.
Hmm. I think if Burrow's healthy, it's the Bengals.
Yep.
That's
Agreed.
it is decided.
Agreed.
All right. So at Dolphins, coming off a bye week, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough one. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Raiders because I think the Raiders defense is I think they can rattle Tua. I saw Tua get rattled, and obviously it was in the cold weather of the Chiefs, but they could not get anything going. This is, in my opinion, a toss-up game, but I just think I don't know, the Dolphins kind of like they're kind of soft, and I feel like the Raiders are a team that can like beat up on soft teams. So that's why I'm going with the Raiders.
Before we give my Dolphins pick, can we maybe go through some of the comments? I see we have a lot.
Yeah. So which one do you want me to pull up? I saw them stacking, and I'm like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah,
Let's
good
see.
point. I'm scrolling up. I'm like, damn, I don't know.
All right. Anthony said, you guys are still here. Hell yeah, we're here to stay. But yeah, Mike and I talk a lot, if you haven't noticed already, but we have really long streams.
Yeah.
And Thrash said, Black Friday, they win and break the Arrowhead lose streak against the Chiefs, but we lose at Arrowhead later.
Well, we won Arrowhead last time. Come on now.
Let's see. Anthony says that he likes that the bye week is at the halfway point. Yeah, that's pretty
Yes.
big.
Good point. I love that. I hate when like somebody, I think it's the Chargers have like a week 5 bye. I'm like, I would hate that. Because come week 16, your players are tired.
Yeah, Anthony says I can't go through the schedule game by game and say WL. I'm gonna say W for every damn game. You should see the Niner portion. If you didn't like stick through the entire thing, I damn near said the Niners for every game. So
You did last year.
yeah, I did. I did in
Yeah.
every single matchup that the Niners played in, week by week. When we went through it, I picked the 49ers.
Yeah.
So, and that wasn't even me just trying to be a homer. You know what? My last pick, remember my reasoning was that I picked the Niners in every game, and this is the one where I feel like I shouldn't pick them, and I picked them anyway. That was probably my homer pick. And I felt like the stars were lining up just for me to look like a clown once again. But so Anthony's more of a big picture kind of guy of like, when you take a look at the schedule instead of going through with it. And, I think that's fine. Let's see. Anthony thinks that the Miami game is one of the hardest ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yeah, I would say it's up there. I mean, okay, I think in one of the earlier ones, Anthony was saying that the schedule isn't that hard. And, I mean, overall, I guess it's not that hard. Like, I have them winning quite a few games on the first half of them. And in my opinion, in the second half, from the Buccaneers game and on, there are a lot of winnable games. And, again, having that bye week right in the middle of it feels really nice. I don't know why. I was coming into today like not that optimistic, but then, just getting a few nice reassuring comments and maybe you picking the Raiders over the Chiefs in some matchups and whatnot, and also over the Dolphins. Like I'm sitting here like, man, maybe I should be a little bit more optimistic here.
I think I'm being fair. Like in my predictions, I didn't just say, oh yeah, the Raiders are going to come in and kick Charger ass week 1. Like, no, I gave my reasons why I think the Chargers are why I think or why I'm picking them as the winner of week 1. And then like as we go along, like I picked the Ravens. I have the Raiders starting out 1-3 You know what I mean? Through the first 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But Thrash says, when I was a competitive bodybuilder, I only got pain when I started to max out. If I stayed under max, I was fine. Yeah, see, it's I mean, obviously when you get to max weight, it's like harder to maintain the form because you're at max, but it could just be like the slightest little movement will set you back, and then like that, at least that's how it kind of is for my wrist. So it's like the slightest little thing will give you the most trouble. Can you still hear me, Mike?
Sure can.
Okay.
Yes.
Or my AirPods died.
Okay, let me see. Just as far as comments go, can you put the Anthony slap?
What do you mean, Anthony slap?
Go up a little bit more, maybe. He says Homer ...
Where?
10:04 p.m.
Homer ... But I feel we slap the crap out of the Chargers.
He says statement game.
Yep.
I like it.
All right. So,
but
your pick for the Dolphins, Mike.
I think looking back on last season, where it was like the second or third game for Antonio Pierce. Again, rookie offensive coordinator, rookie quarterback with Aiden O'Connell, and they almost went out there and like beat them. And I think Aiden O'Connell made some really, really bad mistakes in that game that ended up costing them, overall. Whereas if he just had a clean game, they have a very good shot at winning that one. And I did say on the Niners schedule that I think the Dolphins got worse this offseason. And, I was coming into this thinking I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win this matchup. And the one thing that still makes me probably lean that way is that we're playing in Miami, but it's in November. So it's not like it's like, oh, the scathing heat of Miami. It's like probably perfect weather. Maybe rainy. Maybe it's, stormy, but man,
in November the weather is going to be fine. It's not going to be as bad as it is in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, September to October is like it could be horrible out there. Oh man. Okay, I'm going to pick the Raiders in this game.
I also picked the Raiders.
But
Christian Wilkins' revenge game.
Oh, true. Because of that, I'm not going to pick the Raiders in the game that I thought I was going to pick them in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to overhype the Raiders right now.
Mm-hmm.
For lack of a better term, or I'm not trying to hit the what did you call it for the Niners? Like, there's our prediction, there's the floor,
the ceiling. The floor and the ceiling.
I don't want to predict their ceiling right now. I want to predict a solid, what I would expect the Raiders to do.
Yeah.
I might get the games wrong, but I expect around this number. Continue.
Mm-hmm. Thrash says that I should start doing wrist curls and grippers. I'm sure you know. Yeah. I think that's actually a very, very good idea. Like the things that you squeeze is what I'm assuming. Pause.
You should try the shake weight.
Yeah. Yeah. You would know. I mean,
wait, Josh, can you put your head down like this?
Like what? Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Moving on. I should have never listened to you. Yeah. All right. Anthony is going on a tirade about the Chargers.
Oh man, let's see. I fired him up.
Yeah,
we did it.
You fired Anthony. See, this is your doing, Mike. You're starting a riot. Okay. I wouldn't be shocked if we heard on the news tomorrow that there's a protest going on protesting the Chargers. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Anthony's going to burn it down. So next week, it's going to be versus the Broncos at home. I think the Raiders will sweep the Broncos this year.
I agree. And this one's at home. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this is also a game going right before, coming out of Miami and then before a 2-game road streak. So I just think you come home after bye away, and then you got 2 more away games. It's like, take this comfort, take this what should be hopefully an easy matchup, for lack of a better term, and beat the brakes off that fucking trash ass team.
Mm-hmm. Anthony says he's been hearing crazy hype for the Chargers. I think it has to do with the fact that they got like the best coaching candidate in many years.
I think it's that, and also just, they lost their quarterback pretty, not early, but, early enough to where their schedule could, their final win-loss record could really show for it. Like, they weren't expected to be a 5-win team to earn the 5th overall pick, but they did that because, in part, Justin Herbert got hurt. I think, my opinion is that he's a top 3 to 4 quarterback in the league. Some Raider fans might disagree, but I just think when he's at his peak, he's up there. And you get that back, you get a star offensive tackle to pair with an already other star offensive tackle on the left side. They have a lot going for them, but I agree with Anthony's take on the running backs. They got some injury-prone dudes in there, and that doesn't sell me. And I think the run game is supposed to be their strength in Greg Roman's offense, and I think it can easily blow up in their face.
Mm-hmm. And, Anthony's pointing out the fact that Justin Herbert does have like a new offense and weapons. That's true. On the same, in the same vein, the Raiders are going to have what I'm assuming is going to be Minshew, who's also a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator. So even if it is O'Connell, they're going to be picking up a brand new offensive scheme. They won't have Josh Jacobs for most of the year. Half the year like they had last year. Jacobs played half the year last year, right, Mike? At least half.
I think he really just missed the last 4 games or 5 games.
Okay, so they won't have Jacobs like most of the year. But you get Brock Bowers to add to that. It looks pretty good. I think the Chargers, added a good offensive tackle, added Ladd McConkey, who I think is going to be a good slot receiver. It'll be interesting. I just have them winning week 1.
Yeah. I think my opinion of the Chargers is they very well might be in the playoff hunt. They also very well might have sort of like the what did I mention earlier for the Niners schedule, where it's like an uphill sort of thing. I think maybe the Vikings of like, this isn't going to be their year, but maybe starting next year they start playing really well. Like, that's the way I feel about the Chargers, is they're going to get better and better. And right now is, as far as on paper for the roster, a low point for the Harbaugh era.
Mm-hmm. I love this comment from Thrash. Chargers should probably invest in a stem cell lab or something. They're always hurt.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast today. I want to say it was Chris Long's, and he had so the Greenlight podcast, and he had Brian Baldinger on, and I think it was it was Daniel Jeremiah with Bucky Brooks, move the sticks. Sorry. And they were mentioning that they have heard from within the Chargers organization, because Daniel Jeremiah is pretty locked in with them. Their new strength coach, the Chargers organization overall, feels like their new strength coach is going to be a big difference maker for them, in large part because, yes, they've always been hurt. So if this new strength coach can change that, that's huge. Admittedly.
Mhm. All right. So now Raiders at Chiefs. This is the Black Friday game, right?
This
Yeah.
is the Black
Okay.
Friday game. Can we go over? I hate to keep doing this, but what do we have the Raiders at? Each of us.
Okay. So I've got the Raiders at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got them at 6 wins. And so week 12, factor in a bye week. So 6-5. I've got the Raiders at 6-5.
Okay, and I've got them at 7-4. I just counted.
Okay.
This is the one for me where, because you chose the Chiefs to lose to the Raiders in week 8, you kind of changed my mind, and I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I do think the Raiders are going to split with the Chiefs, so I'm going to pick them on the Black Friday game. But then you really convinced me on the Dolphins game, so I'm picking the Raiders to beat the Dolphins, and I'm picking the Chiefs to beat the Raiders in this week. And I'm going to give the Chiefs the sweep, but I still expect, them to tie, or whatever you want to call it, a draw, whatever. Like, Raiders win 1, Chiefs win 1. Granted, for this exercise, I'm going to give them.
Hey, you know what's hilarious? The lead up to it, because I just see win Black Friday, the Raider pirate flags, and then I just see what the fuck.
No, I fully read that. And like,
you're
what the fuck?
Yeah, you're
Oh
over
my
here.
God.
Oh my God, I've been convinced that this is happening. That the Chiefs are gonna get the sweep, and then just, dude, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Is this dude really a fan? What are they doing, man?
Oh my God.
You know what? Fine. No, fine. You're right. I expect a sweep. Or no, sorry. No, wait, no. What's the tie? What's the word? What the fuck?
A split.
Yeah. A split. Jesus.
I
do expect a split. Sorry, Anthony. I'm so sorry. You have convinced me. I'm picking the Raiders in this game. How about that? I'm gonna have them at 11 wins. I'm gonna be like, how the fuck did that happen?
Okay, so you're sure about switching your pick?
I'm sure about it.
I feel pretty good that the Raiders will split with the Chiefs.
I'm sure about it. I'll give it to them. Yeah.
Okay.
And it very well may be that the Raiders win the one at home. And if I'm being honest, I might prefer that. But beating the Chiefs on prime time, there's not much better than that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was hilarious. You're like, I expect to get, the Chiefs are going to sweep the Raiders. Immediately held accountable. That was great.
That was good.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the Chiefs winning the second time around, but I have them winning I have the Raiders winning the first time around. You have the Chiefs winning the first time around and the Raiders the second time. So we're flipped on that.
Yep.
We both think it's going to be a split. So now at the Buccaneers,
I have the Raiders at 8-5 going to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is another one of those interesting teams where it's like, I have no idea what they're going to do. Like, I just expect them to be like in the NFC, like, oh, solid. They might win their division. But if they were in the AFC, it's like, no chance. They're not making the playoffs. You know?
I'm picking the Raiders over the Buccaneers. I think that Baker Mayfield just got paid. I don't think that Rachaad White is the most talented running back, and I could see where the Raider D-line just eats Baker Mayfield alive.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the Buccaneers offensive line.
I think the Raiders are good enough to beat the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with the Raiders. Now I'm feeling like a homer. I hope we're right.
Dude, hey, I'm sharing my tab because every single time I type out the hold on. Every single time I was typing out the Raiders, dude, it was saying Riders. And you were just
Oh.
saying how you felt, you feel like a homer.
Oh
just,
man,
just typing out writers. I swear, it kept
writers.
deleting the A, because of the autofill, and I don't even know why. Okay, so we're both in lockstep. Raiders are going to beat the Buccaneers.
This is crazy.
Now we got versus the Falcons.
Yeah,
I'm going to give this one to the Falcons. I like their
Same.
weapons. I like Kirk Cousins. Even though they made that pick that doesn't make any sense in Michael Penix Jr., maybe they did that just so they could beat the Raiders in Week 15. But I think we don't know exactly what we're going to get out of Kirk Cousins. But if he's anywhere close to what he was doing in Minnesota, I mean, wait a second.
It's Monday Night Football.
Oh man, Anthony and
Monday
Thrash
Night
were
Kirk?
not here for that first episode. What I said about Kirk Cousins, and I don't think I'll bring it back up. I don't think I need to bring it back up. But I think that Kirk Cousins has a certain activity that he does on Sunday nights that that leaves him unable to fully participate in Monday Night Football at his full capacity.
Yeah, because for some reason he has a horrible track record on Monday Night Football. Although you
He
made
beat the
all those
Niners.
jokes, you made all those jokes about Kirk Cousins, and then he went on to beat the Niners on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. But yeah, no,
I'm going to pick the
with
Falcons.
this one. Yeah,
I'm going to pick the Falcons.
I just think, I know it's like for Raider fans watching, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But the way that
You're saying we're going to beat the Chiefs, but we can't beat the Falcons? What is wrong with you?
Yeah. My thing is simply for the sake of, like, I guess, percentages, like what you said earlier of, like, there's, like, at least one or two, like, give or take games. Like, we made, like, for example, the Broncos. I don't see this happening, but the Broncos might beat us in one of the games. And it's like, shit, didn't see that happening. But then at the same time, what the fuck? But then at the same time, whether it's the Chiefs or the Dolphins or the Bengals or the Rams or Browns or Ravens, we could beat one or two or three of those teams. And it's like, whoa, didn't see that happening. But then it evens out. So maybe we beat the Ravens. Maybe we beat the Chiefs and Bengals. And we're like 7-1, like week 8 or 9. And it's like, whoa, this team is nuts. But then maybe it evens out coming out of the bye week. It's like, lose to the Dolphins, lose to the Broncos, lose to the Chiefs. And then it's like, oh, now they're 7-4. Yeah, I don't know. But I think at some point, knowing this Raiders team, knowing that, hey, we don't have the best quarterbacks in the league, that's not a secret. They're going to lose some games. I'm not saying they're definitely going to lose to the Chiefs both times because my belief is fully that they're going to split. So that was an easy sell for me as far as picking the Raiders over the Chiefs. But yeah, I'm giving this one to the Falcons, and then we can move on to the Christmas week games.
Yeah. So Thrash says he doesn't think Raheem Morris is going to work out. He wasn't necessarily good in his first head coaching position, according to Thrash.
Yeah, I want to say I remember when he first got hired, he maybe had like a team meeting, and the Falcons put out this video of him in the front of the room, giving a speech to the team, and I was like, man, he seems impressive. Granted, it's day one, he's giving a speech that he totally pre-planned, like, whatever. We'll see how he does. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of hoping for the best for the Falcons because the fans have kind of been through the ringer, and they're a cool team. Like, not only their personnel and their players, but also just like, how my fandom is, like with the Lions and these teams that are just always the worst in the league. Where it's like when they finally get good, it's like, good. I hope you win some playoff games. I hope you take out the Chiefs or. Well, no offense, but the Niners, like take out those teams that are always there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the Falcons and Lions in the NFC Championship. If it's not the Raiders, which obviously I never really want this unless it's not the Raiders, I'd like to see like Browns versus Bengals in the AFC Championship. Browns versus somebody who just hasn't been there in forever. The Titans, the Jets, I guess, but the Jets are kind of annoying. Yeah, that's about it. The Colts, I guess. It's been a while, but the Jags.
I have to say this. You mentioned how you feel bad for Falcons fans because they've been through the ringer. I went through the Falcons' schedule, and I counted up. They're only going to lose 3 games. And they're going to win 28 of them.
Wow. Yeah, that was good.
Yep.
You had me. I was like, man, I could totally. I think their defense is super underrated, and they have all the weapons in the world on offense, and they have now a quarterback who will sling it to them, whereas they haven't had that at quarterback until now.
Mm-hmm. Anthony asks if you've seen the Tyree Wilson videos.
If you're talking about the ones where he's doing the thing where he slaps the thing, that's okay. There it is. Yeah, slapping the 130-pound bag. That sounds better than slapping the thing. But no, yeah, it looked good. I guess I have a hard time getting overly excited with guys in shorts doing things, but when it's like physically
guys naked doing things gets you excited.
Shake weight, but no, when no when but when a guy does something physically that's like, wow, that was impressive, it's like, all right, now I'm getting a little excited. So like the photo of Joe Alt, I hate to keep bringing up the Chargers, but when he looks like an absolute mountain next to a NFL player, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see him on the field, for Charger fans especially, right? So for us with Tyree Wilson, same thing, 100%.
Yeah.
I really hope that was the whole thing for me. Like a year ago, it was like, oh man, this Tyree Wilson pick, that's interesting. Have him opposite Crosby, But my opinion was, it'll probably take him a year to get into his NFL physique and to bulk up into that NFL body type that the Raiders probably want him to be. So if he's now built himself up to that, yeah, I like it.
So, one thing I will say, I would not be shocked if the Falcons drop this game because of Monday Night Kirk, but I'm picking the Falcons. Moving on, against the Jaguars, I think the Raiders are going to kick ass. I've got the Raiders. I got the Raiders over the Jaguars.
Okay. I'm gonna say this. No, I'm gonna give it to the Jaguars. I'm gonna give it to the Jags. I was waiting for it. Yeah.
No, Anthony's not commenting it again. I just keep going back to the same comment.
No, I know.
It's just whenever you say something that's like against the Raiders, I'm just gonna I'm gonna use Anthony's words. Okay, this is a new one. No way.
Okay, no way. You know what's funny is I don't like. Well, I shouldn't say that. Trevor Lawrence has not impressed me one bit. But granted, they drafted a receiver. They signed Gabe Davis. I think Trevor Lawrence in college was kind of more of like the gunslinger type. And I think up until this point, Trevor Lawrence has not had the personnel to play that he wants to play. Did I say play the way that he wants to play, or did I say play the play that he wants to play? I don't know, but
I think you said
either way. Okay, cool, good. I just felt too fast. I was like, hey, wait. But I think now he has the personnel where he can probably sling it the way that he wants to. It's really just a matter of, does he have the protection, But I think he will have the run game. He's got ETN. They have Tank Bigsby. He wasn't an aspect to their offense at all last year, but I don't know. I think, I guess at the end of the day, this game probably depends on their defense. or I guess the defensive matchup. And I could totally see the Raiders, killing the Jags offense to a degree, and the Jags offense not being able to stop the Raiders offense enough, and the Raiders win this game. But I just think, I think for me, I don't know. I just, it's at home. God damn it. Dude, this is so hard for me. This is so hard. Oh, give me the Raiders. God, fine.
So you switched your pick.
I'm switching my pick. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever.
I just think that the Raiders are a better football team than the Jaguars.
I
And I don't
sincerely
think
hope
Trevor
you're right.
Lawrence has proven that he can overcome, the
Big
like
pass rush.
like I think I would rather have Trevor Lawrence over Gardner Minshew, but I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is like on a top 10 quarterback. Like you have to have him on your team. He hasn't shown that yet. And I don't
Yeah.
think he can overcome an inferior roster.
Hey, I have a question for Thrash and Anthony. Wait, he said, I don't see any of these teams able to mess with our D line. Okay. Wait, am I at the ball? Okay. Oh, Thrash was.
I will say, Anthony, having a great defensive line, I can tell you this firsthand as a 49er fan. The Niners have lost games even having the best defensive line in football. Regular season games. Hell, they were nearly like dead in the water in 2021 with a pretty kick-ass defensive line. And then they came back and then finished 10-7 and made the playoffs. Like having a great D line is great and serves you very well in the playoffs, but it's not going to completely win you, like every matchup. And I'm not saying that you're saying that's the case, but like you might just be saying, none of these teams can mess with our D line, which is completely valid. I do agree. You guys have one of the better defensive lines in football right now, in terms of like starters, like just the firepower on there. Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz. It's pretty fire, dude. Pretty fire. I know you want to add Tyree Wilson in there. I think he's a step below Malcolm Kuntz at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I think right now the realistic outcome is if Tyree Wilson shows big flashes and maybe over the course of this season gains, I shouldn't say gains, but earns a larger portion of snaps week by week. I could see it where Tyree Wilson is the step-in replacement for Malcolm Kuntz after Malcolm Kuntz leaves next offseason. Granted, I hope they keep Malcolm Kuntz, but if Tyree Wilson shows that he should be a starter, they can let Malcolm Kuntz go and then re-sign a bunch of other defensive free agents. Spillane, Diablo, Merrick, Jack Jones, who's up in another year, Nate Hobbs, bunch of guys that are coming up this offseason. So, I think Tyree Wilson progressing is huge for this team in the future, as far as cap space allocation goes. But, okay, I have a question for Thrash and Anthony, if they're both still here. Hopefully they hear this question. Who do you guys think is the starting quarterback for the Raiders week 1? Not to say that they will keep the job over the course of the season, because I could totally see it, flipping here and there. But who do you guys think will be the starting quarterback week 1? Thrash has given his comment. And the reason why I ask is because you, Josh, keep saying that, like, your assumption, I think, is that Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter for the Raiders.
I think he's better. I just think he's better.
Maybe. But I think my opinion is that Aiden O'Connell, if he progresses and, comes out of this offseason with the mentality of like, I'm going to play games in this offense, whereas last year it was like, yeah, you're probably not going to play. So here's an NFL playbook, learn it. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, buddy, you're playing week 4 against the Chargers. It was like, whoa, shit. I think Aiden O'Connell will be much better prepped this year. And I think Gardner Minshew has the better mobility, and he's probably the better improviser, but Aiden O'Connell might have the better arm and accuracy. And then to me, what it comes down to is decision making. And I think that's where it's going to be key in the preseason.
I think Minshew has more experience. I think,
Yep.
I like him much better than O'Connell, if I'm being completely honest. And Minshew, I mean, I know the Pro Bowl is kind of a popularity vote, but say what you want, he did make the Pro Bowl, and the Raiders decided to pay him, a good amount of money. Like what, 15 million? 10 to 15 million?
It's like 12.5 per year. But either way, compared to Aiden O'Connell, the money suggests that it's for sure Minshew. But I think when you compare it to the rest of the league, it's like, okay, what Minshew's getting is like, backup money. And really at the end of the day, they have two guys that can, in my opinion, that can go in there and play football as a start. Not as a starter, but, at least they can go out there and play against starters and potentially win games. I do like Thrash's last comment, and then we can move on to the Saints game.
That he was the second best rookie quarterback probably stat-wise.
Stat-wise, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a thing, besides Brett or CJ Stroud, like statistically, maybe over the course of, say, 8 weeks, O'Connell was looking better than Bryce Young. Granted, the surrounding cast for O'Connell was much better, but you have to also input the fact that, again, the Raiders' season last year was just so weird, where they fired their head coach who was the play caller, and then you have this rookie play caller who's like practically never called plays before, paired with a rookie quarterback who's practically never started before. It was just this weird mashup of like, yeah, this offense isn't going to work. So now this year they get the full offseason, and then somebody's going to start. But either way, Aiden and Minshew are both going to get a shit ton of snaps with the starters. So it'll be interesting. I couldn't tell you right now who's for sure going to start, but I think right now I lean Aiden O'Connell. I think he has the one step on Minshew to start. Antonio Pierce has said that. Based off of last season, O'Connell has earned the ability to get the first snap, but mid-training camp, that could completely change. So we'll see.
And I think it will change. And, even with Aiden O'Connell and Antonio Pierce and this Raiders team, the Raiders did not finish with a winning record. They went 4-5, right? With Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell.
Damn it. I would have to see that. I want to say they might have went 5-4.
Here, let me pull it up right now. So when did what's his face get fired? After the Lions game, right?
Yeah, so it was the New York Giants game was the first game for Antonio Pierce.
Okay. So versus the Giants, they won. Mm-hmm. Versus the Jets, they won. They lost to the Dolphins. They lost to the Chiefs, so that's 2-2.
Yep.
They lost to the Vikings, 2-3. Yep. They beat the Chargers, it's 3-3. Hold on. Let me replace my AirPod. They beat the Chiefs. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. So 4-3.
The Chiefs 4-3.
Lost to the Colts 4-4.
Okay, so they did finish 5-4.
Yeah, and that was my whole thing with Antonio Pierce was if you can just, I'm not expecting playoffs, just finish the season, Antonio Pierce, in the 9 games that you have, finish with a winning record, and I'm on board. And he did that, and he beat the Chargers 63-21. That's all it took. So
Okay, so now we
let's
have the
finish it out.
Saints. I think the Raiders could beat the Saints.
Okay, just for reference, did you put me down as a win for the Raiders against the Jags?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What do I have the Raiders at right now?
You have the Raiders at
I feel like I have them at 10 wins already.
So out of 15, you have them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10-5. You have the Raiders. I have the Raiders at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have them at 8-7.
And that's going into the Saints game.
Yeah, there's 7 losses being against Chargers week 1, Ravens week 2, Browns week 4, Rams week 7, Bengals week 9, Chiefs and Falcons.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I came in here thinking I was gonna pick the Raiders for 9 wins. 9-8 season. I've got them going 11-6. I'm gonna give them the win against the Saints. Granted, I could see Derek Carr going out there and just like, this is the one game for the rest of his career that matters to him. Of just like, I have to prove them wrong, and yet, the coach on the other side isn't even the guy that cut him. So it's probably gonna be, it's not even gonna be like that for him, and it's probably at the end of the day just gonna be like, can I make the playoffs or not for Derek Carr? But regardless, he's gonna see the Raiders on the other side of the field, and he's gonna be so excited. But I agree with Thrash. I think Crosby and the rest of the D-line is going to get to him, and he's going to get flustered.
Yeah, I think Thrash beat.
And the Saints,
that's how I feel.
And the Saints' offensive line is like their weakness right now. They got Talisi Fuaga, but they still have another offensive tackle need. Yeah, I was coming into this, I felt pretty confident the Raiders are going to beat the Saints. And honestly, if Derek Carr beats the Raiders, I'll be slightly happy for him, but it's going to be super annoying. So, yeah, I definitely want to win this game, and I feel like they should. So, I have the Raiders at 11 wins.
We both have the Raiders there. And to finish it off, versus the Chargers at home, I think the Raiders are going to win. I think they split with the Chargers. And it is going to hurt the Raiders' draft stock, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
Well, I think, I know I said 11 wins is what they need to get to the playoffs. I think it's really 10. I think that's what it was this year. To make the 7th seed, you needed 10 wins. I think really you need 11 wins, assuming all the star quarterbacks stay healthy. But assuming that, knowing the way the NFL has been the past couple of years, the star quarterbacks won't stay healthy, 10 wins will get it done.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
For all my predictions, it's under my assumption that Minshew will be the starter. I actually feel worse about the Raiders if it's O'Connell, and I'm willing, I feel like some of those close games, I gave the edge to the Raiders, like against the Dolphins. I gave to the Raiders because it's, my understanding that it's going to be, or, I think it's going to be Minshew. Right. And versus the Chiefs, versus the Chiefs in one of those games, one of those two, I feel like if it's O'Connell, I don't feel as confident in my picks. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, that is going to be the interesting thing now is, besides the Raiders signing a cornerback, please, for the love of God, sign a cornerback. But besides that, who is going to be the starter? Like I said, yeah, I mean, Minshew's the veteran. I think his mobility is so much better than O'Connell's. And his decision making currently would probably be better. But O'Connell might have the better arm, better accuracy, and if he gets better with decision making and pocket awareness, I can see relatively quickly O'Connell being the better quarterback. But the one difficulty is mobility for him, and I don't see that changing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but because I picked the Raiders to split with the Chargers, and I gave the Raiders the Week 1 win, I'm going to give this one to the Chargers. But the Raiders finished with 11 wins. It almost makes me want to switch back to what I originally had, which was Raiders losing Week 1 and Raiders winning the final week. Because at this point, it'd be the Raiders in their own house, and it might be a win and get in sort of scenario. Whereas Week 1, again, it's Jim Harbaugh's first game. And I talked all that shit, but like in my heart of hearts, it's like, common sense tells me the Chargers get the cheese and whatever else, and they win that first game for Jim Harbaugh. But then at the end of the season, when it really matters, the Raiders get the win. And I feel like, honestly, I should probably switch it to that. But granted, if the Raiders win Week 1, I'm going to be happy because let's spoil it, man. Let's spoil Harbaugh's fun.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at the opponents, just one more time and sort of give a floor. So I have the floor as the Raiders being a 6-win team. That's the floor.
Yep.
So that's in the worst case scenario, what I could see. Yep. My prediction was 10-7. And the ceiling, I would say, let me look at it again. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say the ceiling is a 12-win team. So that would be 12-5?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the ceiling.
Okay. Yeah. For me, I think the floor were you going to change anything?
No, I was kind of thinking of 13, because it's like a ceiling should be like, they could win the winnable games, but like I'm just trying to think realistically. You're marching into a season with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew as your two-headed beast facing AFC teams.
Yeah. Man.
Yep. That's my range.
So weird.
They could win anywhere between 6 and 12 games.
It's so weird to me because the Raiders finished, I want to say 8-9 last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was after a horrible stretch with
McDaniels.
McDaniels at coach. And yet I see the floor somehow being less than that. But that doesn't feel right. I feel like the floor should be 8-9. I think, I'm going to say the floor is 8-9. I'm going to be a little bit bold here. I think the floor should be 6-11. I think you're right. But I'm going to put it at 8-9 because I can't see Antonio Pierce realistically, unless the worst of the worst happens, a bunch of injuries, knock on wood, right? But I just don't see Antonio Pierce leading this team to anything less than what they got last year, which really, I would almost go as far to say it should be 9-8, but I'm not going to say that. That's a stupid floor. My prediction apparently is 11-6, and my ceiling will also be 12-5. I don't see 13 wins in this roster's future.
Yeah, I think we're thinking along the same page. I think you know,
It took some
you're
convincing, but I'm more confident.
I feel like the floor, it should be a little bit lower.
Oh, I know it should be. It's just that would okay. You know what? I hate doing this. Put the floor as 7 and 10. And the reason why is because if the quarterbacks are that bad, and if something tragic happens, if the worst of the worst happens, maybe Antonio Pierce can't overcome it. You know, that's the floor. But that's under the assumption not that the team is bad, but that something bad happens to the team. You know what I mean? But realistically, to me, it's like the floor for a healthy Raiders team with the right quarterback starting, aka the best choice of either Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. I don't see this team. I don't see them having a losing record. And when I say that, I really mean like I'm leaning 9 wins. I'm leaning just barely above 500 and not making the playoffs because again, the AFC is loaded. But like excuse me, sorry. Like Anthony was saying earlier, this schedule isn't as tough as it seems. At least from what it looks like.
So
Okay, what is this?
last season, the playoff picture for the AFC, the lowest seed was 10-7. So
Yep.
it's possible. It's
Yeah.
possible that the Raiders make it to the playoffs with 10-7.
Yep. But like I mentioned, Cincinnati, injured quarterback. Indianapolis, injured quarterback. If you go down further, the Chargers, injured star quarterback. Jacksonville, they either are going to be worse or they might be better. It's a huge plethora of wild card for the AFC. I mean, all those teams besides the Steelers that made the playoffs last year on paper should make the playoffs again. But I could totally see Miami dipping down. I could see Cleveland dipping down. Like I mentioned, I could see Steelers dipping down. But then who takes their place? That's 3 teams. Cincinnati, Colts, Chargers. It could be them. Or it could be Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Raiders. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Raiders' schedule last year again, and I'm just trying to sort of piece together like the strength of schedule that they had.
Right.
One thing I find interesting is Week 17 at the Colts. Gardner Minshew beat this Raiders defense.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a thing that was kind of funny, I guess, was like Antonio Pierce made it a thing. Like he said it, like, hey, we like Gardner Minshew in part because he beat us. Like we saw it in person. He beat our ass. And I feel like there was somebody else that they brought in recently that was like, yeah, he beat us. He played really good against us, so we got him. I forget who it was.
So I'm just all right, not to like make you feel bad or anything, but Week 9 is when Antonio Pierce took over. Like,
yep.
All right, I'm just trying to think about things like no emotion tied in. The Raiders were going to beat the Giants whether or not it was Antonio Pierce or Josh McDaniels. That's my opinion.
Well, I think so long as Daniel Jones tears his ACL in that game, yes. But I think with the way that if you're taking out emotion, on paper, yes, but they still had Saquon at the time, and then they had a healthy Daniel Jones going into the game. When you add in the emotion, maybe not our emotion, but the emotion of the players relative to their head coach, I can't say that for Josh McDaniels. I think he had lost the team so badly that they could have lost to the Giants.
Well, they blew him
Whereas
out
Antonio,
30-6,
yeah,
with a
because they
brand
got a
new
new head
offensive
coach in there.
coordinator.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
they
know.
lost their quarterback in the first quarter. He tore his ACL. Actually, it was right before the second quarter started. I want to say.
Yeah, but you and I both picked the Raiders to win that game even before Daniel Jones was even out. Like I expected I mean, we can go back and look at like our preview.
Yeah.
But I fully expected the Raiders to win that Giants game. And then you look versus the Jets, Zach Wilson, not very good.
Bear in mind. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. I understand what you're saying. I don't fully disagree with you. Just this Giants game one. They went into that game not only switching from Josh McDaniels to AP, but also switching from Jimmy Garoppolo to Aiden O'Connell. Like, you can't for sure say, like, oh, they were for sure going to win. I was picking the Raiders because I was hyped as fuck off of a hype video with Marshawn Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was coming from, and I was going to the game. I was like, nah, this team is on a different level right now with Antonio Pierce. I'm telling you right now, like, they're gonna have a different mentality to them. And they're gonna have a newfound set of just like will to play. Whereas with Josh McDaniels, it was like, we're done here. And for that reason alone, I think the Giants could have beat them at full strength. But then you take out the quarterback, you add in the coaches and all that, it changes. Continue.
And then for Anthony and Thrash and like any Raider fans who are currently watching right now, I don't want to seem like a hater. Like, that might be what it's coming off as, but I'm trying to like look at this objectively and like I'm not a fan of the Raiders. So I'm not going to like look at it in any rose-colored lenses. I just projected you guys to go 10-7, which I think is pretty damn good without a great quarterback. Imagine if you guys get a franchise quarterback, right?
Dude, if it weren't for Anthony and maybe you a little bit, like pushing me slightly to pick the Raiders in some games, I would have projected the Raiders to lose more games than you would have.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways.
So let's see here. I'm just trying to count the amount of wins that were impressive.
That were like impressive. Yeah, I know. I agree. I know. The Giants and Jets game's not impressive. Lose to the Dolphins. The first home game against the Chiefs, they got killed. That was AP's worst game, was against the Chiefs. And then the Vikings game, it's like, man, you get blown out 0-3. That sucks. That looks bad. Then the Chargers game.
The Dolphins and the Chiefs, I mean, come on. The Raiders were supposed to lose those games.
They were supposed to lose those games, and yet, in my opinion, they almost beat the Dolphins. I think that Dolphins game, this might be a case for you here where it's like, if you have Gardner Minshew in that game, the Raiders probably win. I can say that. The way that they were playing in that game, the way their defense played, you put a different quarterback in that game, that's to me the Aiden O'Connell fucked up game. That's what the Dolphins game was.
That and the Chargers won earlier in the year.
Yeah, earlier in the year, but that was his first start, week 4, and he's learning plays from
unprepared.
a guy.
Very unprepared in that game.
And I think that was a Josh McDaniels thing.
Yep.
From what I've heard, but
it is. If your quarterback isn't prepared, and then later in the season he looks better, it is the preparation standpoint. I think it's on the coach.
Yeah.
So, or maybe he just needed time to improve, but he looked good in the preseason, and then he looked really good in the preseason, and then So far out of the 2 wins that they have up to where I'm at, I don't think it's an impressive win. They won games that they should have won, and the Jets
lost games.
The Jets are the Jets were in a similar boat as the Raiders at the time. So I guess it's like a competitive one, but it's not one to like brag about. You know what I mean?
That was an ugly game.
Yeah. So let's see here. We're at versus the Vikings. It was an embarrassing loss because you scored 0 points, and like it was a great defensive showcase, but it was a horrible offensive game both sides.
Yeah, but I think for that game, to me, as far as Antonio Pierce goes, I can't be mad at him for that game. Like, the defense balled out, and that's kind of more his aspect. Whereas the offense, rookie quarterback, rookie offensive coordinator, just stalled. And then the one drive where it looked like they were going to go and get a touchdown, Hunter Renfrow fumbles. So, at the least, if Renfrow doesn't fumble, they go to overtime. And then who knows? But it's whatever.
Mhm.
And then Chargers and Chiefs, I would say, would be the two impressive ones. And also, I mean, beating the Broncos isn't impressive, but the way that they did, like, they handled them. I would go on a limb and say that the Broncos game was impressive too. And then obviously the Colts was like another one where it's like you needed to win the game and you didn't. Very much not impressive.
I think for the Chargers game, yeah, you guys like blew them out of the water, but you guys were, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of if you won or if you didn't win. And like,
Okay.
there was a scoop and score touchdown. It was just like, I mean,
It was
it
pandemonium. The way that I'll quickly sum up what you're saying, if you want to add context, as in what happened in the game, 63-21, impressive. Take out the context, it wasn't impressive because they don't have their quarterback.
Mm-hmm. So far in all the Raiders wins, none of the teams have their starting quarterbacks.
Besides okay, good. Yeah.
So in the 3 wins that we've counted up to week 15, none of those teams have their starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And granted, the Raiders are not playing their starter, Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're playing the better quarterback on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see here. The Chiefs, the Raiders, that was an impressive victory, in my opinion. That was very impressive. You guys like embarrassed the Chiefs on Christmas. You guys should feel like, I feel like that game is one that I can point to, and it's like, if I'm a fan of this team, I'm proud of that damn game, and I'm sure you are. Now, Colts. We thought the Raiders were going to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, and that's another. So real quick, I just want to point out they lost to the Vikings and the Colts, both playing backup quarterbacks. And then the win versus the Broncos. Okay, so the win versus the Broncos was also against another backup quarterback. I don't feel like it gets talked about enough. Like, I don't think anybody has talked about this like at all, really. We're going to see this year. We're going to find out if Antonio Pierce is the real deal or not. And if the Raiders are the real deal. Their defense sure does look really good. Like, even when Josh McDaniels was the coach, I thought the Raiders defense looked really, we both agreed. If Derek Carr would have had this defense, man, the Raiders would have been good some of those years. You know what I mean? I think you and I were both on that boat. But so far,
that was always my opinion on him, was if you had just given him a defense, he would have looked better than Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019, basically.
So I know I'm completely probably pissing off Thrash and Anthony and I haven't looked at the comments, so I'll take the heat with the WTF, but the Chiefs win was impressive. Every other win was against backup quarterbacks, and this is not looking into each individual game and like what was good, what was bad. This is sort of like a big picture. So take what you want from what I'm saying. But maybe it's possible that we might be overhyping, what was actually accomplished last year and carrying that a little bit into this season.
I'll go as far to say that I basically agree with you, because like I said, I was coming into this thinking I had already done my predictions on my phone and kind of wrote them in, and I had 9-8. And then after some convincing, I bumped it up 2 more games where I gave us a win against the Chiefs and I gave us a win against the Dolphins. Like,
Mhm.
I and that's what I think all of this talk about quarterbacks and stuff that goes hand in hand with what I was saying kind of to start this of like the Raiders need that franchise quarterback that propels them and makes the difference, the difference maker. Because once they have that, then there's no question. To me, it's like at that point, it doesn't matter whether they have their backup or starter. We have a very good shot at beating any team. But until that point, it's like in some cases, yes, we're going to need some help. That Jets game, if it's Aaron Rodgers, we probably don't win. I won't say that for the Broncos game. I don't know about the Colts game. But maybe the Vikings game, Kirk Cousins, I mean, we already lost, but maybe it would have been 21-0 instead, something like that. Granted, I agree with you that nobody's talking about the fact that the Raiders basically only faced one starting quarterback. Well, two, Tua and Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes twice. So
Yeah. So three
three.
total, but really two starting quarterbacks from the point that AP took over. Nobody's talking about that. Probably because the Raiders didn't make the playoffs. If the Raiders did make the playoffs, people would have talked about it. Because I do remember when the Raiders made the playoffs in 2021, that was a thing. The final 4 weeks of the season, there was all backups, and they lucked their way into it. Starting with the Cleveland Browns game, that they wanted to kick, a field goal kick to end the game. That was like on a Tuesday. I don't know if you remember that. But anyways, because of COVID and stuff. I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but like quarterback injuries have gone up over the past like 2 seasons, like drastically. So having a backup quarterback is just huge now. And I was saying it because I was mentioning Burrow and Herbert going down, and also Richardson for the Colts. And that had a big effect on the playoffs last year, to where if that happens again this year, then yes, I can see the Raiders making the playoffs. But if no quarterback gets hurt, which obviously looking at the Raiders' second half of their schedule, a lot of quarterbacks got hurt. And that's not even showing Joe Burrow, right? And others. If all those quarterbacks in theory stay healthy, because most of them are in the AFC, I don't see the Raiders making the playoffs. But if these injuries to quarterbacks keep happening, so long as the Raiders have one of their two quarterbacks and the rest of the roster is healthy, they have a shot. But to make a long story short, hopefully to finish this all off, this season will be very telling for Antonio Pierce. If he can get this team to a winning record where, in my opinion, they have a good roster surrounding one of the maybe 5 worst quarterback rooms in the league, that's impressive as hell. But if they end up below my floor of 7 wins, then again, Houston, we have a problem. And they'll probably say that the quarterback is the problem, and hopefully they're right. But if they go and get the quarterback and then they still don't make the playoffs, then we need a new coach. Like I can say that. But right now, I'm not in super negative mode. I am flying high with AP until he proves me otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And, I guess, like, I think that while I do think that Antonio Pierce deserved to be hired by the Raiders, I'm trying to pump the brakes. I mean, I guess I'm not even just trying to pump the brakes. I projected them to win double-digit games, this upcoming year. I just, I didn't think about this as a topic today. Like, it didn't cross my mind until I was just looking at it. But I was like, I thought they finished 4-5, right? They finished 5-4, and I'm like, well, what were their wins? And I was just trying to take it from a, is this that impressive? And this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
There are people, and it's completely valid. Every win, a win is a win, every win's impressive. You only play the people in front of you. That's completely valid. I just try to think about things like context and stuff like that. And sometimes you don't need context in the NFL. Like, because I can say, the Niners got dogged on those holding calls in the Super Bowl. If you really watch the game, this is what happened. At the end of the day, not Super Bowl champions.
Yep. At the end of the day, did you win?
Yep.
The circumstances will be the circumstances when they get there, but at the end of the day, did you win?
Mm-hmm. And Anthony puts it very well. The Raiders were in almost every game. The Raiders were a competitive team. And then Thrash also said, peace, fellas. I'm dozing off. We're pretty much at the end of the show. Let's just quickly recap. We don't have to go game by game again. I guess I'll show it for a second. But my floor was 6-11. Mike's floor was 7-10. My prediction was 10-7. Mike's prediction was 11-6. And really,
can you at least put in parentheses 9-8? Like, I think without looking, no, for the prediction. For me, like, if I don't look at it game by game and overthink about it, and I just look at this team with the roster and the quarterbacks, and I ask myself, what do I expect from this team? It's 9-8. That's what I expect. But then when you look at it on paper, it's like, well, the schedule's not that bad, and blah, 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 blah. Then, yeah, I can easily write in 11 wins, but, those give or takes, just give me 2 give or takes where they lose some that they should have won. Boom, you're at 9-8.
I'm also going to put that for mine too, because I think in the grand scheme of things, if you would have asked me yes or no, is this team a double-digit win team without looking at the schedule, I would probably say no. They're just right below it.
Right. And that's fine. Some
Raider
fans will be upset.
This is my prediction.
But yes.
In terms of going game by game.
Yeah, going game by game, I got 11-6, but I think what I would expect from the team is more along 9-8. And then my ceiling is 12-5.
Mm-hmm. Anthony says that Luke Getsy has no handcuffs. So good thing he's not a police officer. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's pretty much the show. I mean, unless you got more, Mike, but we've been at it for almost 4 hours. It was a pretty good pod, I would say.
It was a good pod until the next
we got
one.
great comments from Anthony, great comments from Thrash.
Some funny moments.
Yeah, some funny moments. A lot of smack talk. Anthony, talking to you. But yeah, we should be going live. I don't want to give a set date. We'll see like when topics start to pile up. Our next podcast might honestly be us with more random topics rather than specific, news or whatever, giving opinions on like something that's going on. Because I mean, what does the NFL really have planned next? It was the draft, the schedule release. Now we just have to wait. There's going to be this dead zone between now and training camp.
Yep. Now it's just fantasy football prep time.
I will say, I sleep very, very well at night knowing that I am a 4-time fantasy champion.
Yeah, I think it used to look better when it was up here.
No, I don't think so. You can actually see it here. In the background, like
the silhouette was so cool back here,
Yeah, it was like the silhouette of the Grim Reaper on the Bills field, okay? That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
This is real stuff. This is real hardware, okay? Look, just count with me. 1, okay? 2, okay? 3, 4. In technically 8 years since our league has been active, but since 2018, I've gotten 4. So I've gotten 4 out of the last 6. Big pick, dude. That sounds so crazy. That's pretty good. That's a great way to go out. All right, everyone.
But I'm hoping to make it 2.
Okay, Eli Manning. All right, everyone. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for tuning into the show. We'll catch you guys on the next one.